that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I looked at it and I had a GIF already that I was gonna post, and I was like, nah, let me stay out of it.
That's progress, man. I'm the same. Like, I have to stop myself and just like, what am I actually going to gain from tweeting this? You know, what am I actually going to gain? Let's just not do it.
I gained likes, Joseph. I gained likes. Clout.
No, I get it. I get it. It's just like some shit's just not worth it, man.
It's
In the
not.
realm of Twitter, especially, like it's just.
Look, you're not wrong, but sometimes like I just get. And yesterday was a long day, and I just wasn't having it, man. Just wasn't having it.
Yeah, hey, sometimes you gotta give people the smoke they're looking for, man.
That's right.
And
That's right.
you know,
That's right. JR, what up? Amader, what up? We're here to talk nonsense as we always are. I'm gonna let Joseph read the chat because I gotta write about NXT UK, you know?
Yes. Before we go any further, I don't want to stress that while you guys are right to have that approach, I am very, very proud of myself that I am now the one that stays off social media. Very proud.
It's the best move. I have stopped myself from replying to a lot of things that I probably, in maybe years past, I would have immediately responded to. That I was like, yeah, let me just mute this guy and get him up out of here.
Because a lot of the time, and we'll transition this to something that's relevant in the last couple of days that isn't something we can't talk about. A lot of the time, it is stuff that you're never going to convince someone on.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, yesterday, I have some of my mentions, and they were effectively blaming us, the media, for WWE's discourse being negative. And it's like, brother, I didn't cut these people. You know? And I'm replying with this guy, and at some point, I'm just like, he thinks what he thinks, and he doesn't even know who I am. Why am I even arguing? You know, like, just let him be an idiot. That's my genuine approach most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, well, when you've got certain companies that make it very clear that they're anti-media, and that's in their approach to media, that's in certain things they put out there about media, then that's what we get back as media people. And I don't think certain fans understand that.
I mean, we know they don't, right? To be honest, we just, it's so shut off in such an archaic way for those of us that actually give a shit about the stuff they produce. And unfortunately, folks, I mean, there's maybe some people in the chat that don't like the weird something, maybe weird something's negative. I think it's pretty well earned, personally. But what Phil just said is spot on, and it's not talked about enough in the sense of, well, maybe open those doors up for us even an inch, and we'll be able to see a better picture of what's going on. Right now, there's such a resentment towards wrestling media. It's the same issue you have with fans, right? Fans feel like they're being resented for their opinions. So it's just a really toxic dynamic, to be quite honest. And I think anyone that doesn't see the reasons why they're kind of being a stand for the promotion, which there's no arguing any logic with those people.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think when you look at the differences in the way some companies are very inviting to media and some are not, I think there's like a clear line there.
No, I agree. I actually think it's really interesting, and it's not a big topic, but when you see AEW feature Conan and Bischoff the way they do, I think that sets a really cool precedent in the sense that both of those guys like semi-dunk on the promotion regularly as a creative. You know, like, I mean, Bischoff, obviously, he does that deal where he sort of like frames himself as though he's like a really connoisseur, you know, like he does all this thing where he talks about stuff that his resume suggests he's probably not qualified to, but who am I to say that? I'm certainly not, right? Conan just says shit. He still gets cameo, like he just talks. He's still on there, and I think that sets a good precedent because look, we all have opinions, right? We shouldn't be outlawed for just saying Dynamite wasn't that good this week. It's fine.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen where they can be pretty sensitive, AEW, but I still think that they allow media in more than some other companies.
Mm-hmm. And that's all you want, right? Baby steps.
Yeah.
They're all sensitive at times, right? I mean, good Lord, Impact's had their moments. You know, it's wrestling. At the end of the day, they're wrestling people, right? We get it, but you can't just shut us off completely and expect us to be glowing praise. It's just not how it works.
JJ resubscribed 5 months. My God. He says, hello to my favorite big stars, 5 months as a sub. Great to see the community grow. Man, I was talking to Joseph off air, and I'm sure people, if you watched the show, you saw it, like, our viewership was really good today. Like we had 300 consistently for the chat until O'Neill wouldn't come on and talk hockey, and then viewership dropped off a cliff. But Joseph's like, we used to just like do 300 viewers when the show would get posted, and now it's like, hey, 300 people are here live. So it's really nice. I'm proud of everything we've done with the bullshit that we've done over the past year and some change now. And Chris Verano with the follow. Appreciate it, you guys. Appreciate it, man. And Baseball's Best says, what's up, Distraction Crew and Phil Lindsey? Here we go. Let's get into some basketball talk. That's why Phil's here. Can't wait for Bucks Nets series. Also, Knicks fans chanting, we want Brooklyn. Didn't work out. Same thing for Celtics fans. Phil, where are you at on the NBA playoffs?
Was hoping those Knicks would do better. Relieved when I was on the Distraction. I feel like this is kind of karmic because I jumped on the Knicks quite a bit when I was on there as an avid Knicks hater. And I put all my hopes in them as a Tibbs guy and a Rose guy. And I was like, come on, man, let's do this. Couldn't even give us 2 games, man. Just disappointing, man. Real disappointing. But this does raise my hopes. Come on home, Derek. It's okay. It's okay, man. Come back home. We're ready for you to come back. You and Zach and come on, man. Vooch, come on, man. That's the starting 5. Come home.
That would be a good 5. In fairness, that'd be a cool moment. It's got to happen at some point, right? It has to.
What I hope doesn't happen with Derek, not to get into my Homer phase. I hope they don't wait to the end of his career and then they retire his jersey and then they act like they've loved him all this year, even though they, unceremoniously traded him out of town and didn't treat him well after that. That's going to make me really, really mad.
Yeah, I get that. No, 100%. So I have been consistent since the Harden trade. I've just said, look, they'll get the buyout guys they need. And I think they did that. Brooklyn are just, you can't deal with that level of one-on-one scoring from 3 of the best scorers in league history. It's too much. Are you with me on that, or are you kind of looking elsewhere as champ? To me, I feel like Brooklyn are locked in. I really do.
Barring an injury, I don't know who in that conference can beat Brooklyn. I thought Boston had a chance until Brown went down, but yeah, without him, they were toast. Man,
Boston was so bad all season. Like even with Brown, like that team was bad. That team was bad.
Philly has a shot. I don't know. I won't get into the Embiid stuff, out of respect for my guy. But I felt like they had a shot with their whole team. I don't know now. Like, now I feel like it's really Brooklyn's to lose. Man, because, I just don't trust Milwaukee.
Even after, like, I thought they made a statement against Miami, especially with a sweep, and 3 of those games weren't close. Like
Jimmy wasn't Jimmy in that series.
Yeah,
that's
but
why I'm not really giving that much credit.
You got to give Milwaukee credit for Jimmy not being Jimmy, though. Like he was locked in, right, Joseph? Locked in, and he was not good that series. Like Milwaukee deserves.
I think he's hurt
though.
That's my guess. He looks like he's hurt.
Maybe. I think I'm really looking forward to this series. I'm in on the Bucks. They proved a lot against Miami, and they've been good all season. They added Drew. Drew's different than Eric Bledsoe. DiVincenzo being hurt does kind of suck because he's a good defender. Like Brent Forbes gives him more offensively, but he's a better defender, and you're gonna need defense against the Nets. But look, Middleton's a big shot maker. Drew Holiday can get his own shot, take and make big shots too, get shots for others, and Giannis, he has his issues with the playoffs that you can deal with, but he's still, at the end of the day, he's Giannis, and he can get points, and he can do a lot of things. And defensively, like, that's a good team to have defensively against all that firepower of the Nets. So I think it's going 7. I'll say right now, I think it's going 7.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good series. It all depends on if the Bucks can score back and forth with them. If we've got Giannis trying to load up and do all of their scoring, they're going to lose.
Yeah, the problem is they have 3 of the guys that are on that short list of like, look, Drew Holiday's an elite defender. You're not like stopping these guys though, right?
Yeah.
Like you may slow them, you may take a game away from them, all three of those guys are probably going to average around 30. Like, it's the reality of the situation. And here's the worst part of all. Harden is the one guy of the three that you would perhaps go, I'm not sure in the playoffs. He's also an elite playmaker. So he can distribute, in this team especially, with Durant and Curry, he can literally stand back and watch. It's too much. Now, here's the thing. I don't know if that's good for the NBA. I don't know about you guys. I don't know if it's a good thing that like this team can be like NBA 2K formed and just win the title. But that's the reality of where we're at, right? Like, it's not the reason they're going to lose it. I don't know. The Bucks are a very formidable team, and I respect the way they've done it. And I think we all have a respect for like a market like that trying their best to make the most of a generational talent is cool, right?
Yeah.
But that's all admirable until three guys go, we want to play in New York City, and then next thing you know, it's not so easy. It's hard to see past the nets.
Yeah. If I'll take this second to kick Garnett's back in a little bit because I don't like Garnett. I think it's quite interesting that Garnett is kind of the starter of this era of basketball because they were like one of the first big three. And so then you get all the way to today and Kyrie stomps on his logo and now he's got stuff to say. I'm like, hey, this is you brought this on. And then on top of that, you're defending a logo, sir. You're defending a big sticker on the floor. Who cares if he's stamped on a logo? It doesn't matter.
So good. It's so funny. That big three is like, they just dunk on themselves regularly, like for no reason. I mean, because obviously with Ray Allen, he's like, they've divorced him. He can't talk about the big three. They get mad, right? Rondo still hates him.
Yeah,
Paul Pierce is
Judas.
Bro, he's wild. That dude don't give a fuck anymore. And now you got KG. KG's the one guy who, for all of his flaws, like you could say maybe he was in a good standing, and suddenly he's defending the honor of a logo against Kyrie Irving, a guy who got booed by that. Is tremendous. You can only laugh at those guys who talk like they won 18 rings, right? He blessed them.
Come on, man. I mean, you're defending a logo. He's saying, man, this is too far. Did anybody else see this? Kevin, bruh, I've seen you on live TV call a man a cancer patient. You can't do that.
Not ideal.
You can't do that. You can't defend this logo when I've seen you say things about Carmelo's wife. Carmelo was standing outside the locker room ready to put hands on you, sir. You do that.
Yeah, he's not the guy for that quote. He's just not the guy. Very plain and simple. We'll take a look, because I did say, we'll get back to the NBA talk, Phil, no doubt. But I mean, as I've said, it hurts a little bit right now, so apologies. But we have got some Patreon things here, and I think this is a good one to throw your way, because frankly, I have no more energy to talk about it. JJ says, who just resubscribed, so we'll give him some love. He says, hello, big stars. That goes for you too, Phil. You're also a bigger star. He says, how does SmackDown only have 7 active women? It's a complete and utter joke. Love you both. So here's the thing. I think this is interesting to throw your way, Phil, because I get the sense that for some reason you are still passionate enough about professional wrestling that this may actually upset you a little bit. Okay, and I know that Jeremy and I, with all respect to the issues at hand here, just frankly do not give a shit, right? But I feel like you might have some left. You might have some juice left to deal on this one. Where are you at on this thing? Are we looking at an ended brand split? Are call-ups coming? Do they care? What's going on?
So they're definitely going to call some people up. I mean, but I think in regards to them only having 7 women on SmackDown, I think it says everything about where the women's evolution is at the moment. I mean, there's so much talk about how much they care about the women and how much they're doing this. I mean, the women's tag division is on life support right now. Like, that's just the fact of the matter. And I mean, the only reason why SmackDown's women's segments aren't as bad as Raw's, which are atrocious, is because of Bianca. Like, if they weren't going off of Bianca and Bayley being such a phenomenal heel, then nobody would care about their women's segments either, because they're essentially the same.
It's really sad, isn't it? I mean, I think I joke a lot about not caring, but it's easy to lose sight of if we just lined up the talent. Just put them on a sheet of paper and said, look at this talent that's under the WWE banner. Historically great lineup of female talent, And it's like, how many of those women can you then say, yes, they are being used to their full potential? They are being used in the correct role. I mean, I look at Rhea Ripley, who's someone I've always been so high on. I don't think they know if she's a heel or a babyface. And I don't think it's because they're doing some sort of nuanced tweener thing. They just don't care, right? And I don't know, man. It's a real shit. I said on the show today, and it was very hyperbolic, and I don't know if I liked that I said it, but I said at some point, I said, it's like wrestling's McDonald's hiring the best chefs in the world, all of them. And when you look at that women's roster, and you look at their usage, what a shame, you know? It could be so much better.
Yes, it can. I mean, man, I feel like it was at its best in 2018. Mm-hmm. Like, you had Evolution, you still had the Mae Young Classic, you had Ronda there, Becky was Becky. Like, I feel like that was as good as it was in 2018, and it has completely dropped off a cliff since then. I don't know what Raw is right now, but the women's segments on Raw they're just almost unwatchable. I mean, you've got Reginald pinning Shayna. Like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? And I agree, Rhea is just there. I don't feel like Rhea has a character right now. And I feel like that's where Asuka was for a while, too, where it was just like she was just there. And it's a problem when you make someone champion and they're just there.
So you mentioned, do you still actually watch Raw? If so, because I'm intrigued by this. Like,
I peek in every now and then, but I think this week's episode bothered me enough that I'm probably not watching Monday. I just don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're doing with their women's division. I don't understand the Kofi stuff. I don't get it.
Right, we should get into the Kofi stuff at some point, because I think that I saw your thread about it and I thought it was very interesting, because I'm not on board with how swiftly or the audience dismissed him as a top guy. It felt almost like, okay, you had your fun with it. Now let's get to the guys we care about. And I'm not blaming the audience. Let me stress, because I understand that the promotion does what they want to do regardless of our faults, right? But I don't like that when someone like yourself will say Kofi's being wasted. There's this kind of approach of like, well, he had his run. What more do you want? It's like, well, maybe he could be a top guy. Maybe, I don't know. But we'll get to that. We'll go ahead. Yeah. You can talk about it. Go for it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. To me, I feel like it's a very weird decision. It's a very weird storytelling decision to say Kofi took 11 years to get to the top, and then you let him get to the top, and then that was it. It was like, okay, well, we did it, so all right. No, he's at the top. Why can't he stay there? Like, if it was just to get him there for one match, what was the point? Like, it's stupid. And then to now go, well, he's been held back for 11 years, and now it's his chance to finally get a rematch. Okay, well, if he's been held back, then what's holding him back now? He just pinned the champion. Just give him the match. Why did he have to pin a guy that the champion pinned at Backlash? That's so stupid.
So I'm not a Drew McIntyre. Like, I think he's good. I've never been someone that's like, oh man, he's the guy. I just don't believe it. I've never seen it, and that's not a shame. Like, there's a lot of guys like that. Some of my favourite wrestlers will be terrible as the top babyface. That's just wrestling. But to actually position him the way they currently are, which is so obviously going to alienate the general WWE audience because they like Kofi Kingston, I feel bad for the guy, because I'm left looking at his situation saying, how are they doing the same shit again? They're making the same mistakes. And it's just, I know you don't have an answer, Phil, because I know you were just as sort of confused by it as I was, but it's like, we're within months of Drew getting to that point where it's like, we'd have to turn him heel. We'll just turn him heel. At what point do you've run out of guys to turn heel? You can't keep doing this, you know?
Yeah, I think it creates this problem where you always have these people online that are like, oh, you guys only want to cheer for the heels, and that's why wrestling isn't what it was anymore. And that's absolutely not true. The problem is that they wait till they have nothing creatively for a guy that everybody likes, and then they turn him heel, and they're surprised when people aren't booing him. It's because we already liked him. You just weren't doing anything interesting with him until you turned him heel.
Yes. No, you've nailed it, and this has been a thing they've done, and when it invaded NXT, you knew NXT was doomed. It's that bullshit ideology of every character arc has to be Anakin Skywalker turning to the dark side. Everyone has to do it. No one can just be a good human being and stay that way, right? Everyone has to turn. You eventually give in. The only guys that don't are the dumb ones, and eventually they give in. Point 2. Daniel Bryan turned heel 6 months after his turn. Was it a great run? Yes. Should he have turned heel? Probably not. Right? Sami Zayn turning heel. Guys, I know we all think the world of Sami as a heel. Do you remember how great of a babyface that guy was?
Yes.
But they're all so good as heels that we forget. And even Bayley, and again, Bayley has had a wonderful run. I'm glad she did it because it's shown her versatility. But the fact they got to that position tells you something. Becky's big run started with a failed heel turn, which captured your description perfectly. We don't want to boo her. Why are you doing this? It's the same thing over and over again, and it's just like, I don't get how someone hasn't put their hand up and just gone, maybe we're doing it wrong. You know? Maybe it's on us. I'm not sure.
Exactly. I've seen some people say that maybe it's time to turn Kofi heel, and I was like, why? He's the best pure baby face that you've had in a long time. Why would you turn him heel? Just give him a good run and give him stuff to do. Like, it's weird. It's
It's tough, man. What's interesting is I thought this when I was watching Double or Nothing. And again, folks, I know that on the show tonight I did many of that stuff that everyone hates where I did the old WWE bad, AEW good, go fuck yourself. I know I did that, folks. I apologise. I do, but this is where I'm at. I'm biased, whatever. Did you notice, though, Phil, that, like, guys like Omega and the Young Bucks, who the audience obviously loves, were just getting heel heat and everyone was cheering the baby faces? It's almost like it's possible, isn't it? Like, almost. It's almost like the audience would love to buy in with the characters and have fun booing the heels, but it isn't done well enough in WWE. I mean, I'm not saying that's the case, but like I'm pretty sure that's the case. It seems like the evidence suggests that way.
Yeah, the only person I've seen that has really turned the crowd well is Roman at this point, and I think that's because some people enjoy booing Roman anyway. And I'll give Sami his credit. Like he gets the crowd to boo him.
Yes.
Like I mean, we watched that Montreal crowd where he turned that crowd, and it was amazing. But I definitely feel like there are a lot of guys in WWE that everyone loves, and they don't understand as a fan favorite, and they're trying to go like, look, this is a bad guy now. You're supposed to boo this person. It's like Dakota for me. I love Dakota, and it's like, why is she a heel? I don't understand why she's heel at this point. Like, it's strange. I won't go into bashing Raquel, but I was like, why was Raquel the one that you decided should be champion? Why wasn't it Dakota?
I think we should discuss Raquel, but first I need to do some housekeeping. We've got Whiskey Dick, one of my good friends. He is subscribed to Tier 1. Big Franco, 5 months for him, 4 months for the Whiskey Dick man. We have got 95 beers from Franco. Not even a message, just showing love. We appreciate it, folks.
Greg,
we're obviously...
Greg,
what's happening, Jeremy?
Greg C., also our buddy Greg Carr, I believe, also resubscribed Tier 1. For 4 months. Appreciate it. So yes, a lot of resubscriptions. It's the beginning of the month, guys. We appreciate the resubs. You can use the Prime like Franco did. He resubscribed using Amazon Prime. JJ will post the gimmick in the chat right now because I asked him to. And Bill's Mafia cheering 17 bits as well.
Phil's he's brought over 40 viewers here. He's a draw.
Phil is a draw. Man. People were asking when we were on Twitch the other day. Somebody was like, Ray Callahan has the Prime bit there. People were asking, oh, Jeremy, how come you don't do more shows with Phil and Andrew? I was like, because they're busy, guys. That's why I don't do more shows with them. Like, they have an open standing to come on these stupid shows anytime they want to. They know we love them, but they got a life. That's what
we can't relate.
Yeah, that's when I saw Phil pop up in the chat for our show. I was like, hey, come on Twitch with us if you're free for a bit here. And here he is. So they know they can come on whenever they want, but again, they're busy people. Jesus, everybody, don't yell at us.
I saw someone say that like they like me and Andrew's dynamic, and I always laugh because I'm like, Andrew is always one of those guys that I feel like he almost gets me on my worst behavior. Like Reg is like this too, because Reg will say something, he'll know that I'll respond to it. Like he'll always egg me on. He does this on Twitter too, and I go like, "Come on, don't do this to me." Like people are gonna come for me if I say what I really think.
Oh, that's why.
On that point, in fear of making you really think I'll now lead well on the Raquel Gonzalez discussion. I don't think enough was made about the idea that we're about to enter a new era on Tuesday nights. Let's go from the champions of Io Shirai and Finn Balor to Raquel Gonzalez and Karrion Kross, which is one of the boldest plays that no one even really talked about. Right? Like, it was just like a thing they did. Dude, that show, I don't watch NXT consistently because it doesn't hook me. I think it's a fine show and I watch it, but it doesn't hook me. That's a big drop off in terms of talent. You can have high hopes for Raquel, I get it. Karrion Kross, I get less. Phil and Io Shirai are like two of the great wrestlers in the world.
Yes.
Big dip there, right? Do you think that's affected the show, or it's just like that show is what it is? You and I could be champs. It's the same thing. What do you think?
I mean, well, it goes into my thoughts on what is NXT right now. And I've asked that question for over a year at this point. What is it? Is it a third brand? Is it developmental? It doesn't seem like it's either of those things anymore, but it tries to be both. And I feel like this is now trying to develop Cross and Raquel and make them like homegrown stars. But I don't know, man. When you're, like you said, when you're coming from somebody as good as Finn was as champion, and then you're going, hey, here's Karrion Kross, and then you expose him this week by Adam Cole basically telling the truth about him. It's like, I don't know. I mean, that's not to bash Kross. I've never been big on Kross. I've never really understood the appeal. But he's a good wrestler.
Phil, you're on the wrong show if you're not a fan of Karrion Kross.
No, he's fine. I just don't understand, like, what is the big to do? Why do people rave about this guy? And I didn't understand it when he beat Keith Lee. I don't know. The Raquel thing is different because I feel like Raquel is good, but when you look at all of the people on that roster that are better, in my opinion, why did you pick Raquel? Like I said, Dakota's right there. Shotzi's right there. Ember's right there. Tony, I mean, like, there's so many other people that you could have went with, and to go with Raquel, it's a very odd decision. And that's not to say that she's not deserving, but it's like, huh?
Yes. I think you hit the nail on the head there in the sense that, okay, if this is framed to us as developmental, we all get it, right? Like, okay, she's a prospect. She's kind of raw, but she has the tools. We get it. When you have an Ember Moon there, who's already done 3 years of jail time on the main roster, it suddenly is less appealing because and it's the same thing with Finn. I mean, if Finn isn't actually going back up, I struggle to see the objective reasoning for him to be playing second fiddle to some of these guys. And that gets back to your core question of what is NXT. Now, I think it's pretty obvious they don't know, do they? I mean, no. You know, and look, that's not, believe it or not, folks, that isn't uncommon in wrestling, that people they're so deep in their own shit, they don't even realise what they're trying to achieve anymore. What do you think it should be, though? I'm interested, like, do you think they're at a point where they need to go back to square one and start just developing again? Or is it a case of embrace your reality as this weird, like, super indie brand? Because that feels like that didn't really work, did it? You know, it didn't help them against AEW. So it's hard. Where does the NXT go? What do we think?
I think that it should firmly be a third brand at this point. I think the day of it being a developmental and a feeder process is gone because you got guys that don't want to move up. So because of that, you're not going to have the room to let people naturally progress like they should. Like, the fact that Gargano won't leave is part of why some people have not moved up the way they should have. I mean, you can make a strong case that Swerve is 2 years behind where he should have been. But a part of the reason why he couldn't move forward is because you had some guys like Gargano and Cole still at the top of the card, and he couldn't get there. And so I just think that you just can't go back to being a developmental at this point. I think you just got to be a third brand. At this point, they should be a part of the draft. You should have some people be able to move back and forth from there.
Right.
I just think that's the way to go.
So I'm with that, but then it gets into the issue you brought up of have they committed to that? Because the problem is,
no.
As we've seen, so about a year ago, one of the main sort of character arcs or stories, whatever you want to call it, on NXT was the friendship of Dijakovic and Keith Lee. Right? Remember that whole deal?
Yes.
So then, as we all know, within mere months of that, Keith Lee comes up with a different entrance, a different look. So that immediately, if you're an NXT viewer, is kind of like, oh, that's a lame. This is not the guy that I was just watching. Dijakovic is literally a different human. Like he's he's completely rewritten, as is Mia Yim. So it's like you can't do that stuff if it's a third brand. See, I'm with you, man. I think there's guys on the main roster that like could really do with moving to NXT and vice versa. It has to be fluid, though, right? It has to be. It can't just be this stagnant, as you pointed out, this stagnant thing where it's like, bless Johnny Gargano, he's trying his best, a tremendous performer, but he's slowing the progress of others, as you pointed out, and if he's not going to go up and people are coming down, it just sort of stalls things more. Finn's great, but he's not going to help in that regard, right? He's another guy now you've got a stock in there. It's a weird one. It almost feels like they need to do what they're suggesting about having another show, and it's like, does anyone want to watch another show? I mean, I certainly don't want to watch any of these shows. I don't want to watch another
one. Yeah, I don't know, man, because I think the way to go is make it the third brand, though, because I mean, I think you're absolutely right. It's not developmental more. If you develop all of these people and you reward people for watching NXT, and then when they come up, it's like, forget about NXT. That doesn't matter. It's like, well, is it developmental or not? Like, what is it? Like, and I mean, you can say the same thing about Rhea. I mean, we watched Rhea develop until she lost to Charlotte, and it was like, okay, well, now her story is that she's trying to get back where she was because she lost to Charlotte. And it's like, well, that's not really a story because that's created by your own mechanizations. Like, it's not.
Yes, I mean, yeah, that's a problem. There's a lot of issues. So I think with NXT, I was talking to a friend of mine that used to attend the famed, what do they call them, the coconut loops? Like, you know those famous Florida shows that have 50. Yeah, it's in Samoa Joe and Chris Hero in front of 50 people, fucking throwing shitty forearms and all that good stuff. And we were talking about NXT and trying to figure out when you would call the peak of it. The Largo loop. There you go. So it's a weird brand because the one thing I don't want to do, and I got into this recently with someone, is like, I don't want to rewrite history, and because I need to stress, I have really loved NXT at one point. Like, in fact, I would go as far as say that NXT at its best is probably my favourite version of whatever you would call modern wrestling. It was an hour of TV with a small crew. Everyone got time. You had the cool studio setting, which I was always for. I know people hated Full Sail, but I like the idea of TV being in one place, you know. And then when you get to the arenas, it's huge. It's a bummer for me because I think the way that I talk about it now, people think I really hate NXT. And look, in truth, maybe I do. I am biased, I accept that. But man, I really loved that show once, you know. Like, when do you think that peak ended? The conclusion we reached was when they kind of like made a mess of Ciampa and Gargano as a feud. You know, like that mid-2018 area. There's good stuff after that, but it isn't the same to me. What do you think?
I think NXT stopped being special when they kind of ruined Gargano's run. When they decided, like, okay, he's not a face anymore, let's try and make him heel, I feel like they effectively jumped the shark. Because, like, at that point, you took away what made Gargano interesting. And then I feel like making it a live show and making it 2 hours just kicked it completely off the curve. And it's weird. I almost feel like the same as you. I don't watch NXT as much as I used to, which is unheard of because I used to watch it religiously. I feel like at one point it was the best wrestling show on television. But I almost feel like we're scorned at this point because it's like, how did you manage to ruin something as good as NXT? Like, how did you guys mess this up? And so now when I watch it, it's like, it's almost resentment because it's like, how did you guys make this like the rest of your programming?
And then there's this other layer where if you just step away from the programming itself, we also are scorned in the sense that we've seen our favourite NXT guys get murdered on the main roster. So then you have this weird dynamic where, I spoke about this on the show today, and people might scoff it, but I really believe it. I think around 2016, 2017, there was a renewed optimism around WWE that they'd changed their mentality, you know? And it was fun to go, oh man, Samoa Joe's going to be on the main roster, Shinsuke's going to be... I feel like now they've so forcefully erased that optimism. How excited can you be about an NXT champ? Right? Like, even if you and I were big Karrion Kross fans, which again, thank goodness we're not. But if we were, we were desperate. We're sitting here getting excited about him working Roman or whoever. We can't have any faith in that, right? Like, and I think that's part of it. And that's where I do sympathise with the NXT people because it's like, the truth is, while I agree the show has definitely got worse, I also think they're suffering from the incompetence of those above them that are just destroying the guys they send up, which doesn't help the perception at all.
For sure. Yeah, well, the one thing I will say, I think if any NXT champion I've seen over the last few years is tailor-made to come to the main roster and do well, it's Kross. Like, I feel like he fits all of the stuff that makes like a Raw superstar or a guy that Vince likes. And that might be part of why I don't find him that interesting on NXT, because he's so theatric, he's so I don't know what the other word to put him. He's so he's so sports entertainment esque, and it almost doesn't fit what I like about NXT.
Yeah, so then this gets into. I can't believe we're doing this much about NXT, but this is the way the show works. You know that, Phil. We just go, right? We go where we go. Wrestling talk. That's what it is. This thing gets into. We both think it should be a third brand. The next job is, can we give these brands a personality and an identity?
Yes.
Because then we could sign a Karrion Kross and say he's not a fit for NXT. He should go straight to Raw, straight to SmackDown. Whatever show you decide should be that show for characters like him, put them on one show. Get rid, like put him and the Fiend. Let them do the magic and stuff over there. I don't give a shit. But every show, because NXT still is developmental, he has to start there. And I agree with you. He doesn't fit there.
No.
It's the pure wrestling show by WWE standards. So that's the other problem. Every show needs an identity, and there's just not. They're just one big umbrella.
Yeah, and I mean, you could say the same thing for Frankie/Taya. I feel like Taya doesn't need to be there. I feel like the way she's packaged right now, she's ready to go. We already know she can go. She already has a huge legacy outside of WWE. She doesn't need developmental. She just doesn't.
I agree. I will say, though, there is a part of me that's just like, this is dumb. I admit this is dumb, Phil, but when I like people, I would rather them be in NXT because it just... Even though the creative is kind of shitty, hang on, let me explain myself. Even though the creative we just agreed is kind of shitty, you have to admit there is like a difference to the level of shitty, right? Like
it is.
Like, so for example, I'm a big Ember Moon fan, and I do not like the way they've handled her comeback. But there's a difference between losing in 15 minutes to Raquel Gonzalez and losing to, the fucking Lily the Doll. I mean, it's a different thing, Phil. You'd say I can at least. For Frankie, it's like they're not going to kill her. They may waste her, but they're not going to absolutely eviscerate her. So for that reason, I'm just like, sure, man, keep Pillar like in NXT. I hope they have fun. That's where I'm at. Is that sad? Maybe it is. I don't know.
No, I understand it. There are definitely some people that I'm like, yes, keep them over there and keep them away from the stench of Raw. Like, I get it. And I mean, SmackDown is less so, but I feel like SmackDown has some of the same problems. But Raw, I feel like Raw is probably their most creatively stagnant show. Like, there's nothing at this moment about Raw that's like, I have to tune in to see this.
So I brought this up earlier, and we all agree, I think, I'll get a quick answer on this, but do we think the brand split's ending? I don't think we do, right? We think it's staying. Where are we?
No, they've got way too many titles to end the brand split.
Okay.
Like, they're not going to do it. But it feels less and less necessary when they don't go out of their way to do anything different on each show. And I was saying before Ruby got released, I was like, man, wouldn't it be great if the Riot Squad just went back to NXT and had a great run as tag champions? And they did something interesting with them. And, here we go. I don't know.
So I was looking at the rosters, and I was trying to, figure out and piece together how likely this is, how unlikely, I don't know. And my job was to try and decide who is an actual cemented, established top star on these rosters, okay? Now, I cannot find my tweet because I tweet too much. However, I believe I found 6 names that I would conclude, okay?
Really? 6?
Yes. On both, this is combined, okay? So we will now together. We will now together as one of the great minds in wrestling media and us two, Jeremy. we will now combine to try and find guys that we consider established main event stars. Okay. Now, when I say established, folks, I do not mean they won belts for. I mean they could main event next month's pay-per-view, and you would not be surprised at all. You'd be like, makes sense. Okay. Yes. Roman is number 1, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm gonna try to get your 6 here.
Okay.
Okay.
By the way, let me make this clear. I'm talking about just the men, because I think the women, even for all of the issues,
that makes it even more difficult.
Well, go ahead, try your best.
All right, Roman.
AJ's got to be there, right?
I was thinking AJ.
I wavered on AJ. I didn't have AJ.
Oh my god!
He lost to Jackson Riker, dude.
No, I agree. I mean,
but still, if you put AJ in a title feud tomorrow, people would go for it. Like he's
you're right. Yeah.
I think AJ's got to be in there.
All right, Drew.
Okay. Yeah, I counted him, but I think it's kind of fake.
Yes, I
Fake
agree. I
stats.
know. I figured you counted him because like
Yeah.
they see
I
him
think
at
you
that
have to
level.
count him only because they gave him the win over Brock. But
Are you
Yeah, like he's,
counting?
you know,
Are you counting part-time guys? Like, is Brock there?
no,
Okay. All
Brock's not
right.
even signed.
no,
Fair.
I just mean give. They don't let it just anybody beat Brock. So
No,
if you
I'm
give
with you.
somebody a win over Brock, like they matter. They
Yes.
matter in a way.
No, I agree. I think Drew has to be on the list because, look, again, I don't think he's the guy, but they've pushed him well enough that he's a top guy. And I'm not here to dispute that. I don't know if you should build a brand around him. Pretty confident you shouldn't, but he's there. So we got Roman, we got Drew. Okay,
Lashley.
I count Lashley because I love Lashley. I don't actually know how his reign's going because I've not really seen a lot of it.
I have a question for you after we try to figure out these 6.
No, I haven't got Bobby Roode on it before you ask.
Rollins.
Rollins,
Yeah,
for sure.
begrudgingly, Seth Rollins is featured on my list.
Okay,
Yes.
so we're at 4.
It's tremendous fun. This is 4 wrestlers has already been a struggle.
Bray?
I don't remember. I didn't have Bray's. I feared Bray's job yesterday. Fuck, he's not on my top guys list. God forbid.
I think New Day is a collective because they are super duper protected. Like, I think New Day.
But the problem is in an ideal world, we have, and this is what I think's lost on people. In an ideal world, New Day is like the main event of the show because the tag titles is positioned as such that they is like the equivalent of being the world champ as a singles wrestler, right?
Yes.
But like we know that's not how they do it. So like for example, when the Forgotten Sons came up, it's like they can just beat New Day and no one even's like batting an eyelid. And it's like they're supposed to be the best tag team ever.
Yes.
You know, like so I didn't count it. I'm with you, man. I wish I could be more conclusive, but like yes, but they just tag wrestling is just not the it's just not their thing. It's just
Orton's
it's a
gotta
shame.
be on there.
Orton was on there because it's been so long, right?
Okay.
That like at some point you become part of the furniture.
All right, so we're at
Right.
5.
Yep.
You didn't have AJ.
Who's my 6th? Can the chat tell me?
Owens?
Boy,
Yes, I had Owens was on the bubble. That was my guy. That was the
Okay.
6th one.
interesting. So you thought Owens is cemented, but not AJ. I don't know about that.
No, nor do I. It was
All right, Joseph. I got a question for you. How many
God.
guys can you give me that if they were just first card losing to Jackson Riker on Raw, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's
Right.
fair. Yeah.
Now, hang on. That's fair or that's surprising? Which one? Because fair, I don't want anyone losing to Joe.
Right. Fair is in like, oh yeah, of course, like they'd do that to that guy. Like, sure.
I'd be surprised if Drew and Bob lost to Jackson Riker. I'd be surprised if Roman Reigns lost to Jackson Riker. Other than that,
That's like, yeah.
AJ Styles.
Yeah.
Like
That like so that's where I'm looking at like, all right, who's established top stars? I'd be shocked if like, yeah, Roman lost to this guy. Dude, I wouldn't even be that shocked if like Drew lost by distraction. Anybody on Raw, I feel, can just lose by distraction roll up, and I wouldn't be shocked.
I want to stress because third man's right. This is not me talking about potential mainstream appeal. Like,
No, I know.
if we sat and did I know you're not. I'm just trying to chat. Like, if we sat and did a big board of the talent, there are a lot of guys that I think we believe could get over to that degree. This is not me saying like a skill level thing. I'm saying the way they're presented on television. Because I mean, fuck, I'm talking like Cesaro is one of the greatest pro wrestlers. Like, I'd have him in that. Like, they don't do things that way.
No.
I do think it's interesting though across 2 rosters that when I talk about ending the brand split, I don't want them to. I'm just speaking like thinking about this. There isn't too many main eventers for one roster, right? Like it wouldn't be difficult for them to be like, man, we just got too many top guys. Quite the opposite, to be honest. It would give them more options. You know, that would be better or worse, to be honest. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know what it says that out of the 6 guys you just named, over half of them are on SmackDown.
Yeah.
That's probably not a good thing.
And this is the thing with SmackDown is was obvious after the draft. I think I did a post-draft write-up thing. And this could be complete bullshit, folks. I'm guessing. I don't know anyone in the WWF, but it really feels like Roman handpicked some baby faces there, right? I mean, it really felt to me, when I looked at that roster, I said, okay. I mean, because even as deep down, I've mentioned before, Rey Mysterio, even as deep as him, it's like, Roman could kill it with Ray. He has killed it with Cesaro. Like, it feels like, because Heyman's done this before, it was lost on people. But folks, I recommend go to the 2019 draft and look at the roster that Raw had. Heyman was very smart in avoiding a couple guys, okay? And there's a couple guys. One of them's no longer there. We found out yesterday. The other one, he's off television because someone else is doing his gimmick. And Paul was smart enough to know, I ain't booking that shit. Get away. He's now got Roman's ear. It is not a surprise that those guys were kept away from Roman. So it's interesting to me that from the outside looking in, it appears that one of the top guys manoeuvred the rosters that way. Because Raw is just, what a dry, stale crew they've got over there. Right? Am I being unfair? It just feels so flat, all of it. And maybe that's creative, but the roster isn't particularly exciting to me, even without the creative. I've got to be honest.
No. I mean, I feel like they by far have the better women's division of the two, but hey, again, the way that they book the women's segments on Raw is horrible. Yeah, I don't know. It feels almost like they're waiting for Becky to return. It just feels like they're like, Becky's gonna come and save us. It's like Bart just sitting in the corner and Krusty, Camp Krusty, like, Krusty's gonna come. Krusty's gonna come. It's like, I don't know, man. It just really feels like that. It feels like once Becky finally comes back, they're gonna go, okay, we're off to the races.
It's a carrot.
It's not ideal.
We talked about it on the show, like, oh, they're just waiting for live events. Oh, they're waiting for Becky. They're waiting for Brock. Like, this is what's gonna save. It's just like, how do you just do good shit now?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Like, Phil just mentioned the Raw women's roster's better, and I had the same conclusion when I looked at the two rosters after the draft. Do you think it was lost on people just like how wild that talent pool is in someone else's hands? Because maybe I'm missing it, okay? It's like, forget, because Becky's not there, so we'll go Asuka, Charlotte, Rhea, Shayna, Alexa, Naomi, Nikki. Imagine rendering that squad useless. Like, imagine the skill it takes to position those pieces in a way where you get no use out of almost any of them. That can't, guys, that cannot be overstated. And that's why we're talking about today. What is the creative at this point? Because I don't know how you can make a bigger mess of what they've got there. That's a serious lineup, you know?
You've got, what, like 5 NXT women's champions on that roster?
Right. Yeah, and I mean, we always talk about how big Naomi could be. One of the non-NXT champs is Alexa. She's already been a big star. It's like, you've got them there. They're ready to go. Like, I don't know, man.
Did we mention Lily?
We didn't mention her, no. She's never won the NXT title.
Oh, you sure? Are we sure?
That's relevant here. But that's relevant here. It's like, you can't... It's like the equivalent of an NBA team playing everyone in the wrong position, isn't it? It's like, you can think what you want of Charlotte, Alexa, Rhea, Nikki, any of these people, but they're all slotted in the wrong role, aren't they? Like, they could all clearly be offering something to your brand, and instead, you're basically making you're rendering them irrelevant, and it's just, I don't know, man. I'm sure someone can explain why it's actually right or whatever. I don't know. I'm sure there's a reason, but it seems bad to me, Phil.
I mean, I'm pretty sure we talked about this when I came on the Distraction and how, some people liked the Lana stuff at the time, but it wasn't that I disliked Lana. Lana is great in certain aspects, but if you've got Lana on a roster, it's equivalent to having Steph Curry and going, hey, we've got Steph Curry, but we've got Steph Curry too. Let's put Steph Curry on the bench and let's start Steph. Why? For what reason?
Yes, and in fairness, Phil, I mean, I remember you talking about that. In fear of being mean here, 6 months later they've just cut her. So,
well, that goes into they will have something that they'll continue to be their toy until they get tired of it, and then they'll just toss it away. And that's totally what they did with Lana. I mean, it's what they did with Strowman as well.
No, absolutely, but it's another tick in the box of when you tweet this stuff, you'll be told to be patient with it. But then when said patience is rendered completely pointless, those same people don't come back and go, actually, you're right about that, right? Just move on to the next thing.
I have been waiting for over 6 months for someone to tell me I was right about a tweet that I got burned on in January, because I said, you guys are all complaining about AEW's women's tournament. Their roster is trending upwards. Raw's women's roster is trending backwards. And I just want to see that same energy. And a lot of people got mad at me and go, but Raw is way better than AEW. And I said, okay, where are we now?
See, but this is what's interesting. So I agree with you.
Where's it at, Phil?
But
I'll quote tweet it and tell everybody to follow you for more accurate scoops.
Come on, man. I just want people to have the same energy. I saw a lot of think pieces about AEW. I saw a lot of think pieces about how they don't care about women's wrestling. I want to see that same energy for Raw because it's been like this for close to a year.
Yes. But here's what makes it even more kind of frustrating. So we just run down the Raw roster, right? I think incredibly highly of Britt Baker and Shida. Do you realise how just completely useless they'd be in WWE's hands? Like, do
Yes.
we grasp the talent we named on Raw? Every single one of those women I named 7, would be like centerpiece level for AEW. You know, they'd enter in a major feud with Britt.
Yes.
Because I'd say Nikki's I love Nikki Cross, but she's probably like the smallest star of the names I said. Imagine how great Nikki would be in AEW, right? Like, it's what you make of the talent.
I mean, when you really look at it, when you look at Raw's roster of women, there are at least 3 of them that are better than anybody that is on AEW's women's division. Asuka is better than anybody in their entire division. Charlotte as well. I mean, Rhea at her hottest was better than most of that division, and this is where we're at with it. It's shameful.
It's sad. I mean, we were talking about Ruby today, and I think people are going to watch our podcast and think I was being dramatic, but I said, and I'll stick by it, I don't think anyone in AEW is objectively better than Ruby Riott. I don't. Like, I mean, she's a tremendous promo. She can work, and she has a unique appeal and dynamic. And it's like, I'm not saying there's not people on her level. There are. But do we think there's, like, anyone objective better? There's not. It's just a matter of how you use it. And to this point, our friend Chris said in the chat, Serena Deeb was in WWE as a coach. She's one of the best. And that's exactly it. And it's, AEW has been a reminder on the national level, at least, that it's, the talent level in wrestling right now is so high. It's not about having all the pieces, right? It's positioning the pieces you have correctly.
Right.
And I think it's so easy to lose that when we talk about free agents or where this guy's going or what this guy can do and what he can't. It's that old cliche, right? You know, highlight the strengths, hide the weaknesses. It's a lost art in WWE for sure. They've just lost complete ability to do it. It's a real shame.
I will give WWE, it's a pass, but with Deeb, as far as having her a coach. I listened to an interview with her today. It sounded like she kind of was like wanted that role when it was offered back, and so that's why she took it. And then, you know, she obviously got released and wanted to be a wrestler. I don't know if they just didn't ask her, like, hey, do you do like wrestling as well? Because it doesn't sound like at the time she took the coaching job, she was out of wrestling. She completely left wrestling for like 2 years. She said she was burned out. She just didn't want to do it. That's when she found yoga and everything, and she was looking forward to being a coach, and she thought that was a good role for her. And then again, they released her, and then AEW, NWA comes along and be like, hey, do you want to do wrestling? And of course she did it, and she's killing it. I don't know if, again, this was a WWE case if they just didn't ask, hey, do you want to wrestle as well? And she said yes, but she wanted to do that coaching gig. Whether or not she wanted more than that, it was not communicated off of that. So I don't know if this is a case of WWE being like, wow, they just had her as a coach and they just screwed up. Like, how'd you take someone this talented and you didn't have them as a wrestler? You just had them as a coach. It seemed like that was kind of what she wanted at the time. And at the time when she took the coaching gig, didn't really have much interest in actually wrestling.
I'm glad you give that context. I didn't know any of that. That's fair.
Yeah, that's fair. I just think it doesn't look good when you couple it with other people that they've had that they did nothing with, or you couple it with people that they could have signed and they decided not to, or just the fact that they wanted to bring in Rosa as a referee is just baffling. Like, what? Like,
yeah.
What are we doing? And so I just think when you tie it with those things, it just looks crazy.
You know, the best example of all of this, I mentioned Nikki Cross, I mentioned Ruby Riott. Mia Yim, who is...
Oh, my God.
I mean, legitimately they may as well have just locked her away. They've done nothing with her. Would she be top 3 AEW woman? Like, she's tremendous, Mia Yim, She's got personality, she's a great worker. She's great. It's just such a shame.
I'm going to say something that might be a hot take. I think the only reason why Mercedes Martinez is with WWE is because that was always her dream destination.
Yeah.
I don't see anything they've done with Mercedes that has lit it up and has told me like she couldn't do better somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. I am thankful for her though that she actually spoke up and dodged the retribution bullet, right? Because I mean, look, I don't want to get ahead of myself here, folks, but I'm pretty confident that thing is not gonna. It's not gonna. I'm pretty sure when we look back in history, we'll all conclude that was not very good for those people. Just saying, just a wild guess. I'm gonna guess it's not gonna go too well. I don't know if they're still on TV, but I would suggest it did not help anyone's career very much. But
No.
I don't know. It's difficult because we spoke about this today, and it's like the idea and the perception is that we're negative and all that stuff, and what we talked about earlier with the relationship with the media. But I think we all think a lot of these men and women as talents, and it's for me it's just a shame because one day these wrestlers will retire, and for some of them, and this is not me criticising their decision making, they should make as much money as they can and be happy. It is a sad thing though for me that some of my favourite wrestlers are going to legitimately spend years producing work that will never be remembered or considered again. That's frustrating to me. Like, just as a fan, I'm not judging. I mean, Cesaro, I'm thankfully doing it now. How many years of Cesaro have we lost to just like nothing? Like just absolutely just runs that we'll never remember. I'm not judging his decision making, but that's why it frustrates us, I think, right? Like, I'm sure you have guys like that, Phil. It's just like, man, I just want to do stuff on it around. I don't want to spend their years doing nothing on WWE TV.
Yeah, well, I mean, that goes into you can go into how they're dishonest in a way about Kofi's win,
right?
Because the part of the reason why Kofi's win is so special is because there were so many of us that believed he could do it way back in 2009, and they just didn't. And it was like, so for you to finally give him this run and then go, he succeeded. He overcame all of these things. He didn't come any obstacles that he could already do on his own. These were obstacles you put in front of him creatively. And so it frustrates me that you finally let him do this, and then now you're like, he lost to Brock, and you keep retweeting this Brock clip, which pisses me off. I'm sorry, it does. But it's like you keep retweeting this Brock thing and acting like it's just like he wasn't good enough to beat Brock. Like, stop it. We know this isn't real at this point. We know it's booked. Like, cut it out. Like, stop insulting our intelligence. Like, it's like you put him in a position where he couldn't succeed coming out of that match. That's what happened.
I don't know where the current path we're on will take us. We all cover wrestling, and hopefully we will do so for a long enough time to see significant things happen for better, hopefully better, not worse, but we'll see stuff, right? I mean, you can already see changes are happening since we've been doing this podcast. We've been for 18 months, and I feel like I've seen shifts, big changes.
Yeah.
I don't know where things are going, guys, but I'll say this much. In my view, there is a very real chance that when we look back historically, and when us three are talking heads on some shitty A&E documentary, we will circle.
We're going to be on the AEW network, Joseph. We've already got our spot reserved.
We'll circle that Fox premiere as an encapsulation of a lot of bigger issues. And people missed on this because they were too busy talking about Cain Velasquez being some sort of draw, which, by the way, Jeremy will know this. Anyone that followed his MMA career, the dialogue was always he never drew as a heavyweight champion. He was never a star. Not famous. No one cares. Not knocking Kane, it's the truth. That moment was a classic case of modern WWE insulting the people that actually watched the television until then. The people that were invested in Kofi. The people that did care about his title reign. That was them doing the old thing of, we got bigger things to worry about now, we'll move on. And I think the way it played out and all that stuff, I really think it's one of those ones that you can look at and go, man, maybe they should have just made like the actual fans of WWE happy, rather than trying to appease an audience that was never going to stay. Who wanted that match anyway? Kane and Brock in wrestling. That's a real moment to me.
It's Saudi. I wrote an article about it at the time because I was like, they're having, I think my premise of it was they're having an identity crisis at the weirdest time, because it's like, hey, you've got this other company that's rewarding people for enjoying wrestling and referencing all these things like New Japan and all these other great wrestling things they watch. And then you're going, we don't really care about wrestling fans. We're trying to get MMA fans. But why? Your competition at the moment is not MMA fans. MMA fans, in some ways, are never going to take wrestling seriously. So why are you working so hard to court those guys?
Yes. So this is a topic Jeremy and I have discussed many times. So there is a middle ground, right? So for example, let's say John Cena is indeed the SummerSlam match for Roman Reigns. That is not obviously for those of us, not even those of us, for Phil, I guess, that watches the TV, right? Or Jeremy watches SmackDown, okay? It's not. He's obviously trying to get whatever that casual fan is, right? It's John Cena and Roman Reigns, their big match. But the reason that's acceptable is, firstly, it is a wrestling match between two pro wrestlers. That helps. But the second thing is, we conclude and we concede, hey, that is a big match. John Cena and Roman Reigns is a big match. When you sacrifice stuff we like for something as absolute, just like low-hanging fruit as Cain Velasquez, then you're really kind of daring the fans to stop paying attention. We can let The Rock come in for a WrestleMania main event. We get it. He's The Rock. Cain Velasquez, we're going to let him come in and steal the spotlight? Man, I'm not cool with that. Like, that to me feels like I'm wasting my time even watching this shit. And I think that's been a common trend. I really do. But people scoff at it, but it's happened enough that I think it's, at some point, you're telling the audience something over and over again.
Yes. I mean, I feel like you're telling wrestling fans, we don't care about your opinions. We don't care about your opinions about our programming. We don't care if we reward you for watching our programming, because we're looking to those guys over there to give us the real money. We're getting your money. We don't care about your money. That money is always going to be there. We want the other money that's over there. And I get it. You do have to try to get other audience members to come in. But at some point, it's nice to give your core fans what they want. And I feel like that's what AEW is doing better in some ways right now.
Yes, so then this is become a wider debate. There is some sectors of the audience, not even the audience, talk about wrestling media, okay? There are people that believe that AEW's commitment to pleasing their existing fans has slowed their growth, right? Now, my take on this is, no, it's just the reality of where they are as a new promotion on television, right? That's my belief. The big thing that we're all still trying to figure out as TV does change, and we joke about ratings and linear eyeballs and all that stuff, but it's real, right? Like, TV ratings are obviously on the slide. The question is, have WWE got a separate audience that's truly casual and divorced from wrestling, or have they just got that dwindling majority wrestling fan that each day gets less enthused to watch their product? None of us know for sure, do we? I mean, we know that obviously they have the biggest audience. We see that much. That's a fact. But we don't know where that audience stands on the product. Like, there are times, and you probably do the same thing, Phil, where it's like, I go on their YouTube and watch a clip, and their comment section is like a different universe to the one that I exist in. You know, like, they'll be fired up. Like, for example, I'll use an example. Bray Wyatt's an example. I never got Bray. That stuff was so big, and I respect it. He got it over, and the merch was great, and all that stuff. Do you think, like, sometimes we are too deep in the bubble? Because I think that is. Are we too deep in the bubble to see what their audience wants? Or is it a case of their audience just puts up with more than your or I does? I don't know. I still don't know where I stand on this. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think WWE is not just a wrestling company anymore. Right. And I think that's the difference when people are like, well, AEW is trying to court all of these wrestling fans. Well, that's mostly what AEW is. It's a wrestling company. WWE is not just a wrestling company anymore. Yes. It's a entertainment conglomerate. Like, they're trying to reach so many different audiences and do so many different things. So, I mean, it's just like, I laugh all the time at some wrestling fans that are like,
oh, did Phil freeze?
Oh, he did his.
Let me see what happened there.
Very sad.
He just left. He's like, fuck, I'm not talking about WWE anymore. Sick of this bullshit. Try to head him back.
Midpoint, too.
Yeah.
This has been fun. We've done an hour already, Jeremy.
We
Very
have.
scary.
We'll go for a little while longer, especially if I can get Phil back here.
Oh my goodness. Can you still hear me?
Huh? I'm here, yeah.
Oh, my thing cut out when you called him.
Oh. No, you're good. You're good as far as I know.
The WWE hacker got to him.
Or that angle, and then they tried to pay it off. Now it says Phil's unavailable. I assume he'll message me if he needs to do anything. I have a point about this as far as being in the bubble and stuff, because I think we kind of are. Let me message Phil. Just DM him. DMs are very slow. Very sad.
Vince cut the feed. My God. Phil was cool. He's rolling too, right? Just absolutely rolling.
He was, man. I don't even know what this MLW stuff is. Okay, I know what these are talking about. Oh, here's Phil.
Sure
there we go. Phil. Your mic is muted. Unmute your mic. There we go.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes. You were saying, you said some wrestling fans make me laugh because, and then you froze.
Then Vince cut the feed.
Yeah. No, I think some people were like, the Fiend stuff isn't good because we don't like it. And I'm like, but I think there's a certain sect of wrestling fans that enjoy the Fiend stuff because they're not into the work rate stuff.
Yeah.
And I get it. And that's why, like, when you see stuff like Bow Wow did that interview and he was like, the Fiend got him back into wrestling. It's like, I think there's a lot of fans that enjoy like the Undertaker stuff and like the over the top theatrical stuff. And so that's why I feel like options are important because not everything needs to be the same thing. Like some things can be just work rate stuff like NXT and no frills wrestling. And some stuff can be the over the top sports entertainment stuff.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in the idea that wrestling should have genres, you know, and different styles.
It's
and
a buffet, Joseph.
Yeah, but the problem is, and I think this is very relevant with The Fiend because of where that character is at now, and by that character I mean that gimmick. While I can see it's definitely for an audience, okay? Like, how do we, as critics, which is what we kind of are, right? We're kind of critics. Like, how do we then just be like, no, but this is actually not good, though. The fact that there's still an audience for it isn't my fault, you know? Because, like, look, man, I'm in fear of being a dick. Like, the Alexa stuff just isn't good, but there is an audience for it. So, like, how do we tackle that as critics, analysts, whatever the hell we are? My take on it is very firm. I think it's terrible. But someone could probably say, I mean, well, look at the YouTube views. But then does that make my point irrelevant? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's very hard. You know this. It happens in film and music. Some of the biggest films and albums, critics don't like them. Like, it's difficult. So, deciding the objective, like Undertaker you mentioned, dude, how much of that Undertaker stuff is, like, really bad? A lot of it, right? Like, if you and I were live tweeting some of that Taker shit, imagine the dunks we would unleash on it. So it's hard. You know, good and bad in wrestling is such a bizarre concept because it's like, I don't know what that even means. It's the dumbest shit ever. I don't know. Yeah.
I just recently remembered when Undertaker possessed Matthews and he was doing like the Orton interview. You remember that when he like
Yes.
I don't know what made me think about this. So I went and looked up the clip of this and I'm like, this is so hilariously like campy and cheesy. But it worked for what it is. And I think like the Fiend stuff has that same appeal to it. And some of that stuff is fine. But this Alexa stuff, man, I think part of the stuff that makes it work is you've got to have the right guy that buys into it and has the convictions to make it work. And Bray is the guy. Bray makes all these things work because he believes in them. You can't just slot anybody into these things and make them work. And I think that's what's happening with Alexa. I mean, all the visuals around it still look just as great, but at the end of the day, Alexa's not Bray, and that's not a shot at Alexa. Right. It's just that Bray is that good at what he does.
I don't even think it's to me, it's not even that. It's more, it is Bray's, it's literally his stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like I think Alexa is, if you just compare their skill sets, for me personally, I think they're similar, comparable. The issue is, it's like Bray trying to do Alexa's like mean girl shit, you know? Like it's difficult. So look, the thing with the Alexa stuff is, and I've said this before, and I think it's amazing that this isn't more discussed. I mean, they've really taken Bray's gimmick and given it directly to someone that he invited into his own universe. I mean, he has been absolutely.
He's been on television. He did the one Fun House after WrestleMania. And then
she's been fleeced, basically.
Yeah, but she's doing the playground, which is the fun house. She's doing the gimmick stuff where she can set people on fire and whatnot.
Here's the big problem with that, okay? That stuff alienates actual fans of the Fiend gimmick because they would rather Bray do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So then that gets secondhand heat on Alexa because she's stealing the guy they actually like's gimmick. Meanwhile, the people that actually just like Alexa Bliss, professional wrestling character, obviously don't want to see her dressed up as a clown. So therefore, what you've actually done, and this is the thing why it's interesting with Alexa, because Alexa isn't one of these people that we all agree is like, man, they just don't see it with her, right? Like she's underutilized, like a Ruby Riott is, for example. We know they think the world of Alexa. So that shows you how incompetent they are. They've managed to actually alienate two sides of the same fan base in one fell swoop. They've frustrated her actual fans while making the Bray Wyatt fans, understandably, resent her because she's doing his shit. Like, how does no one realise this? This is very bad for all involved. Why are we doing it? It's just, I don't know. It's terrible stuff. Very, very.
I don't know, but this just goes into my belief they don't know what they're doing with any of their women on Raw except for maybe Charlotte. I don't know. I feel like Alexa could work with the creepy stuff, but not the way they're doing it. The way they're doing it just doesn't work.
Right? Like, even then, though, maybe she could. But why do it? You know, like, Alexa was really
because it hit all the metrics, and if we don't have Bray on TV doing it, somebody has to do it because it was hitting all these metrics and getting all these views. So we can't lose those views.
but couldn't we have given it to someone that was a non-factor on television and at least could get some TV time out of it? With Alexa, what they've done is they've taken one of the few established players they had and because she's not benefiting really because she was already like a thing. Do you see what I'm saying? So say you give it to Chelsea Green. There's a good example, okay? Let's say they give it to Chelsea Green. I would probably still think it's terrible. In fact, almost certainly I think it's terrible because I didn't like the Fiend stuff, right? But at least then we could sit here and say, hey, look, you got Chelsea a gimmick, go on television, we'll see what they do. Alexa was already on television. She was already selling T-shirts. It's a circle. It's the Alexa stuff frustrates me because I just can't fucking believe the way they mangled Bliss Cross is like, that's like a moment for me where I'm just like, I'm just done giving a shit about any of these acts, Like, just a fine babyface act that got completely destroyed for this. Like, what has been gained? Terrible.
Well, I mean, you could make a case that they never... Alexa's been in this weird spot since she came back from injury, where they don't really give her character development anyway, because it's like, they just told us she was a face, and it was like, okay, well, she's a face now. Okay, well, what has changed about Alexa as a character to make her a face? Nothing. Yeah. So it's like at least it's changed enough from what they were doing, but now it's just at this point where it's as the cool kids on the internet say, go away heat, because it's not doing anything. Like nobody's really that interested in it. And adding the Shayna stuff is just gonna make people less and less interested because Shayna's not gonna beat her. Like anybody that thinks that Shayna is going to come out of this feud triumphant is fooling themselves. She's not gonna win.
No, I agree. Yeah, I agree. There's a lot to be said for what you just said as a wider issue of turning a, cemented villain character that's core like kind of traits are just evil, and being like, now a babyface, please cheer. And that stuff's really sad, and especially someone like her's case, because it's like they actually did a lot of her as a villain, which means you could have told a good story of her no longer being that villain. And instead, that, as you said, they just go,
"Nope, narrow face now, likes coffee."
Yeah, and
does a talk show.
I don't even know when it happened, by the way. Like, I couldn't even tell you when. I don't know if you guys remember what she did, because I don't think she did anything. Right? She just came out as a babyface.
Yeah, I think it was just the Money in the Bank stuff, giving Nikki her spot in the Money in the Bank match, and
yeah, see,
and then after that, she was just basically a face.
That stuff's its own mess, because we talked about this on here before, but it's like they just didn't want that Nikki thing to be a thing, Like, I think like Alexa kind of forced, and then that's when they just like, okay, do your shitty tag team with Nikki. That's the way they do it. Like, that's probably the reason she didn't get a proper turn, because they were like, okay, do your dumb team with Nikki Cross. Anyway, that's enough about stuff that's just completely awful and not worth talking about. Phil, did you enjoy Double or Nothing? I know you talked about it, Jeremy, but I don't watch wrestling shows, so I assume you liked it. I don't know. What did you think of it?
I actually really, really liked Double or Nothing. I think the low point of it was just the Cody match, but other than that, I thought it was a great show. It was a bit long. That was my only other real complaint with it, but I really enjoyed it.
I'm glad to hear. I'm sitting here with two guys that did an actual review show live on one of the biggest wrestling platforms, and I asked both of them this week if they like the show. Of course they did. I'm not going to watch them talk about it. I'll talk to them at some point about it. So I apologise, folks. I'm sure you all knew Phil's takes on that. But I wanted to change the topic. The topics, you know.
I want to talk about the casual fan stuff,
okay,
Joseph, because you mentioned about like, are we inside the bubble and stuff? Because we're on Twitter and we follow a lot of the same people, and you know most of the Twitter stuff is negative towards WWE because why wouldn't it be? It's not a good product. I've got casual fan friends, Joseph. Did you know this? No.
I think you're making it up.
Do what? You think I'm making it up?
Making it up?
Yeah. A little bit. I don't think you have friends. I don't.
Fair. They're friends of friends. How about that? So I do have casual fan friends, and like they like certain people, but their main point of when I ask them like, okay, why are you still watching some of this stuff? It's just like it's habit. Like that's legitimately the answer to why they say they're watching. Like it's just habit. They're like, I probably like to watch AEW. I like people on AEW. One person mentions like, I like Tully, I like Arn, I like to see what they're up to, and you know maybe draw in. They like the old stuff there, and it's just like, but I just don't have time to like watch, you know, like try to get invested into another product. I'm just so used to watching WWE, and there's still people that I like, and it's like it's habit, and they're hopeful, and like they do get angry at some stuff. It's like, I can't believe they're doing this, can't believe they're doing this, but then they just kind of like keep watching or keep either whether they watch it live or they keep up with it however they keep up with it. But like that's like the consensus, and this is more than one person. Granted it's only 2 or 3, but that's still more than one. Like that's still the consensus math. Like that is still the consensus of everything. It's just like it's just habit for a lot of these people to watch. That's it.
Yeah.
Well, it's so much for me bringing the mood up. Jeremy comes in and just says people are watching out of habit, and when they all die at the end, wrestling will be finished. It's mere habit. But no, you lot, I'm with it.
I say that all the time, that Twitter is just Twitter. You know, if you're in the internet wrestling realm and you just listen to what is said on there, you believe that nobody in the world likes Cody Rhodes, for example, and that's just simply not true. I mean, that's just not what it is. I mean, at the peak of Rollins' hate on Twitter, you would think that nobody liked Rollins, but Rollins was getting the loudest cheers at most of the live shows. And that's why I'm like, you know, some of this stuff on the internet is not indicative of the entire crowd, but some of it is. I'm not sure where the line is there. I do think like some of that stuff matters, but not every internet take matters. Not every internet take is, you know, written in stone.
No, you're right. I mean, it goes back to the comparison I made about film and music. It's like, shit, man. I mean, if you based some of those areas of entertainment on just what people say about Twitter, it's like the biggest stuff wouldn't have any fans. It is very much. You have to have awareness of that.
Fast 9 would. It's probably going to get terrible reviews. It's going to make millions.
Yeah, exactly. Or like Transformers or some shit. Yeah. You know, like that critics always dunk on that stuff, and it does like $500 million. Like, fucking, you know, like Drake's. I swear Drake albums get the same review every single time, and he doesn't ever stop people from downloading those things. You know, like it's whatever, man.
Yeah, Drake's on one of the longest runs of any rapper that I've ever seen. But when you talk to like staunch rap fans, they act like he's terrible, and it's like, but who else can you name that has gone on this kind of run? Like, you have a hard time.
It is a historic run. No, you're 100% correct. It's one of those things where I think people are too close to it to realize how long it actually is. You know, like they're like still waiting for him to fall off, and it's like, look, man, he could fall off tomorrow and still have like the all-time longest Top Guy run. It's tremendous.
I feel like we've been waiting for him to fall off since Views. I feel like there were a lot of people like, Views is his worst album. He's done, and it's like, all right, we're like what, 3 more albums since Views, and he's still like top of the charts. Like, it's not gonna happen, guys.
What was the album? Was Views when the Pusha diss happened? What was that album?
That was Scorpion.
Now that one, people, the grave was set. People were ready. They said it's over. He lost the diss. You know, and the album was like, it was that really long one, right? Remember the double? Remember that? It was like 25 tracks. Yeah. People were like, it's over. Can confirm
but that
it was not
such
over.
a stupid take at the time because it was like Scorpion wasn't a great album. It was a lot of filler on there.
Yes.
But man, Nice for What was Nice for What. You can't say that Nice for What wasn't huge at the time. You heard it everywhere. I mean, the key do you everywhere. Like you can't come on now. It's like that's one of those, and that was a B-side. That was a B-side that turned into this huge internet thing that just blew up. It's like you can say what you want about Pusha. Pusha, I love Pusha, but Pusha's not on Drake's level in terms of like a worldwide star. Like that's
no.
I don't care what he does to him. You're not going to change that because some people are always going to listen to Drake. I think some people understood this with Jay at some point, where it's like I don't care how much you kind of pull back the curtain on Hov. People are still going to consider him one of the best. It just it is what it is.
I mean, part of it is like most of Drake's audience like could not give a shit what Pusha T says about him in a diss track.
This is what I'm saying.
They don't
Like
care about Pusha T.
Yeah, like Pusha. I think for us, like he won this beef, right? Like
Pusha's the man. We love Pusha, but it's just it is what it is.
If you're going track for track, like Pusha got him, but. Yeah, the worldwide audience, they don't care. They're just like, Drake made another catchy dance. Like, all right, cool. Like, oh, Pusha outed him as having a kid. Whatever. Like, then he just makes a song about a kid, and it just doesn't matter about that stuff.
It was entertaining.
What was that, Phil?
It was entertaining.
Yeah.
As a beef, but...
It was great, but yeah.
I mean, come on. I mean, if you compare Daytona to Scorpion, for example, like Daytona in some ways is a better album, but there's nothing on Daytona that compares to like Nice for What or some of the biggest records off of Scorpion.
Let's rein it in. Let's not do this now. Okay, I'm with what you're saying as a hit. I'm with what you're saying. Daytona is a monster. It's not a good out. It's a monster. 7 tracks, 7 hits.
It's. But I'm just saying, like, is there any song on Daytona that's bigger than Nice for What? It's not.
No, not in a mainstream sense, but
no.
And look, I love Nice for What. I'll listen to the
right?
shit out of that song. Like, that's a catchy ass song.
I'm glad we're having this conversation because people that know hip hop will like it, but people that don't should see the comparisons. What we're saying here. You know, basically, on an album that was way too long and had an immense amount of filler, Drake had a hit that was so big it rendered all of those flaws completely pointless and irrelevant.
Hits on there that
were. Nice for What is Roman Reigns, and the rest of the album's WWE.
They ignore the rest of the shit. Daytona over there at Impact Wrestling, they've got hits, man. They're killing it. No one's listening. You know. But we will not slander Daytona. I get what you're saying, Phil, but I had to...
No, Daytona's by far a better album. But, yes. When you're looking at, like, all of the hits that come out of that Scorpion album, like, it's hard to say that was a miss for Drake. And there were people that were saying it was a miss. I was like, was it? I don't think he's saying that it's a miss when he's in this huge house that looks like a freaking museum. Like, he's not seeing that as a miss.
I will say that I can't believe we're just going to keep going down this road. People are obviously just going to stop watching and be like, why are they doing this now?
People would love it. The chat's never been more lively than, the Drake and the Pusha talk.
I will say, I do not like when people retroactively are like, Story of Adidon's cool, but like, it's kind of gimmicky. It's like, no, man. That's a killer diss. Like, it's a really great diss track.
No, I remember when Story of Adidon, when that came out, and I remember when Duppy came out. When Duppy came out, I was like, how's Pusha gonna respond to this? Duppy's pretty good, and that's something I see a lot of people that were like, Duppy was never good. No, Duppy was very good, and so I was like, how's he gonna respond? And then when he came out, like the first line of this thing, I was like, God.
Delivery, man. It's the fact that he's so deliberate, right? Like his flow is so like point by point. He hits that's why the "You Are Hiding a Child" line is like an all-time funny one, right? Because he's just saying this shit to him. He's like just lecturing him on a diss track. It's the fucking best. It's so great. Like that's the thing. The real beauty of it is being able to understand everything Phil says correct. Drake's obviously infinitely bigger and all that stuff, but it's also you got to be able to enjoy that as a diss because it's so great, right? It's tremendous.
I think "You're Hiding a Child" is funny in itself, but to come right behind it and call him deadbeat motherfucker playing Border Patrol, like come on, you can't not laugh at that. Like the combo of those two lines is hysterical. Like what?
Because it's the fact that like early, just a few bars in, he does the whole thing of like, his dad walking away, and it's like that just feels like unnecessary mean. And then when he does the full circle deal with Drake, framing Drake the same way, it's like, oh man, Pusha's fucking just killed this guy, just killed him. Tremendous stuff.
I am a strong believer that Drake never wanted to beef with Pusha. I'm a very strong believer that. Like his target was always Kanye. His beef was always with Kanye, and that's why he was like, Pusha, he can have this duppy. Like, get out of here. I'm waiting for your guy to respond, and your guy won't respond. And so that's why when this super secret Drake record that never came out, like, I don't believe that there was anything in it that was gonna hurt Pusha, but I do believe there were Kanye lines in there that would have destroyed Kanye in the way that we see him.
Yeah, no, I agree. Didn't Pusha say like he found out Drake was offering 100K for shit?
Yes.
Like dirt.
Yes.
That was the thing. He said that Drake was like going in DMs and be like, "Hey, I'll give you this much. You know, what can you do?" He was going into like past like hookups or something that people Pusha had been with and whatnot. Yeah, offering him money to get dirt and stuff.
Because he does that line in story, he does the figure. He's like, "How dare you put Ye on my curse?" He's like, "How dare you try and share this? This is nothing to do with him. Come at me. You got nothing on me. Like, come at me." It's great stuff.
So
Tremendous stuff.
Yeah.
We need more good rap beefs. Maybe there are some. I just don't keep up with them. But
right.
Well, I mean, yeah, I feel like that age is kind of over with because we're not in an era where everybody goes to radio stations and knows how to freestyle anymore. Like, we're in an era where you can get on over the internet. You don't really need anybody else to put you on anymore. And I kind of feel like that has kind of killed that era of rap.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. It's just like I don't keep up with a lot of rap nowadays. Like, if it's certain people, I'll listen to it. I listened to the J. Cole album, Joseph. I don't know if you're actually still listening, but I did listen to the J. Cole album. I thought it was good.
Liked it.
Yeah, I thought it was
good. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Did you using that, Phil? You a fan of J. Cole?
I think it's great. I think it's one of his better albums. I'm always kind of confused about the online J. Cole hate because it's kind of like, I don't know. The guy makes good music. Can he come off as a cornball sometimes? Sure. But makes great music. It's kind of like the same thing with Drake. We're out of the era where everybody lives their persona day and night. So we're exposed to these guys are not necessarily like cool in the traditional sense of rappers. So Cole fits in that lane. And I'm like, yeah, Cole is Cole, but guy makes great music.
It was nice to hear him do an album that wasn't him trying to like walk the concept line, right? It was just like, here's some J. Cole. Like, just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because look, I'm torn on the concepts. I think some of them were good. Some of them, like, I didn't. To me, it felt more like use the word cringe. Just like it just when it gets preachy, it doesn't come across the right way for me. You know, it was nice to have him here. Just be like, it's just Cole rapping for 40 minutes. Like, it's good. I know I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I think he definitely needed another producer on his albums too. I think he was doing a little bit too much of his own production, and it was all starting to sound the same. So I think this album benefited a lot from having some different sounds on it.
Folks, unfortunately, I'm going to have to go back to wrestling because I didn't get to all the Patreon comments, so the fun is up.
Okay, let's get through Patreon, and then we've been doing this shit for almost an hour and a half. Let's wrap things up here.
Okay, I'll do that now. What we got here? Break down the Logan Paul Mayweather fight. Break down. Break it down.
Break down. Listen, one of these guys is a world-class boxer and he wants money. End of story. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, basically. That's about all you got. I mean,
enough about Jake Paul.
Isn't it the other Paul man?
I don't know. Is it Logan? Yeah, he's fighting Logan. Yeah, I think he's fighting the WrestleMania guy, right? Logan was at WrestleMania. Jake Paul's fighting Tyron Woodley. Right?
This is an all-time duel in terms of morality, man. These two fellas are fucking in a shootout in terms of just like dunking on themselves at press conferences and stuff. I mean, Floyd's one of the greatest boxers ever. Like, surely no silliness here. He's gonna not get touched. He shouldn't get touched by Logan Paul.
It depends on just how entertaining he wants to make it, right? Like,
yes.
Because Joseph and I had talked about this. Like, he carried Conor kind of through those first couple of rounds, and you know, it's a long game for football. But there's no like judges or anything, but there are knockdowns. Yeah, it depends on how entertaining Floyd wants to make it. If he just wants to go out there and, defense him up, slip, hit him, easy counter punching, he will. If he wants to get hit a little bit and touched, then try to make it look like he's in trouble to get fans into it, then he'll do that too. Whatever Floyd wants to do is how this fight's going to go.
Yeah.
Also, I guess it's a matter of, is the Paul guy, is he going to throw punches, or is he just going to stand there and try and survive 8 rounds against Floyd? Because if he tries to survive, it'll be the shittiest fight in the history of boxing.
I think he's going to come
Floyd's
out,
not going to push.
I legitimately think he's, going to come out and try to, throw, and, I mean, he's got nothing to lose, right? If you just try to survive, I guess...
I don't know.
I guess if he's just I win 8 rounds of Floyd, there's no judges or anything, whatever. Yeah. But then, if Floyd just wants to get aggressive, and I can't imagine Logan Paul has, any type of defense. I've watched those KSI fights. He ain't,
Jeremy's watched the tape.
Yeah, he ain't much of a boxer, okay? He ain't much of a boxer. So, I would imagine that if Floyd just wants to go out there and just rough him up, he could. If I'm Logan Paul, I'll just go out there, try to go for it. If I get knocked down, all right, whatever. I got beat by one of the greatest fighters of all time and knocked out. Who gives a shit? I got paid millions for it.
No.
When is this fight, by the way?
Isn't it this month? It's
It's this weekend. Yeah, it's this weekend.
It's not this weekend. Don't fuck off.
It is.
No, it's not.
It is. It's this weekend. I'm telling you.
It's not this weekend.
It is. They're advertising it. It's this weekend.
What time? What?
No one cares about it because it's a fight between a YouTuber and a boxer. What do you mean? What? Of course you don't know about it.
No, I didn't know it was this weekend. I was I thought this shit was 2 months away or something.
No. That's the Woodley fight.
It's June 6th. It's Saturday.
There you go.
Is Saturday or Sunday? I think it's Sunday. Somebody said Sunday. Sunday night.
Well, either way, this weekend.
What the fuck?
My days are flipped up. Yeah, that's right. Saturday's the 5th.
I did not know that this fight was this weekend.
Yeah, it's this weekend.
What was you saying, Phil?
My bad.
Phil was in midpoint and you were like, when is this? No, it's not.
I was just going to say, I don't think anybody, I don't think Paul has anything to lose here.
Right, yeah.
If anything, Mayweather has the most to lose here. Because if he loses this thing, he looks ridiculous. And, I mean, he already looks kind of wild for taking this fight with a guy that is beneath him. So it doesn't matter. I think Paul could get knocked out in this thing, and it won't make him look bad. He got knocked out by a pro fighter. He's not a pro.
Yes, I do want to stress that us talking about this has completely destroyed the viewership we built while talking about Drake and Pusha T. The other question is for Bob. So we have no more to hit, folks.
Well, what's the question for O'Neill? We can answer it.
It was Ray was asking if he likes some sort of music act that Brock Lesnar likes. It feels like saying we need to actually have Bob here to talk about. I don't know, man.
That's pretty good. Fine. That's pretty good.
Yeah, we'll get by. It's what we got here. Here's a man named Coulter Wall, a musician that Brock put over on the Stone Cold podcast. Does Bob also like Coulter Wall?
There's no way O'Neill has heard of this person. I'll ask him on Twitter. He never logs off, so what's his name? Coulter Wall? The fuck? How do you spell this, Joseph?
Fuck! You know, mate,
Coulter Wall. Your accent fucks it up.
What are the games tonight? It's Lakers, right?
Oh yeah, Lakers, Suns, and Nuggets and Blazers. Good games tonight. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm telling you, as an avid Bron hater,
I would say you're a Bron hater.
I deeply enjoyed watching them cough up that game the other night, and I think it's just because they over celebrated so hard in Game 3, and I'm like, yep, did all that celebrating and lost 2 games straight. I don't know, man. Did all of that clowning Crowder, and then Crowder hits his dagger on you in Game 4. Put you away.
It's a big game. For your brand, I feel like tonight's a big game. You're going to have fun with it if they lose tonight.
Oh, my God. Listen. They lose this game, and the Clippers somehow win that series.
I hope they both lose. I hope the Clippers lose so I can keep slandering them, and I'm fine if I'm fine if the Lakers lose too. You know I'm rooting for my guy. I'm rooting for Chris Paul, so I'm hoping he does it.
I've been watching a lot of very happy Lakers fans. I for some reason a lot of Lakers fans follow me. and for some reason there are a lot of media guys we know that are Lakers guys. Like
we like our
SP3.
Yeah, I was like, we like our guy SP3, but he was very dismissive of the Suns before this series. Very dismissive.
Yeah, I mean, isn't McCarthy a Lakers guy too?
I think he might be.
Yeah, he is. That's right,
I
because
think
he
might
mentioned
be.
it. I just did his podcast, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm a Lakers guy," and I was like, "Ah."
Yeah, McCarthy's a fake Lakers fan.
Yeah, he's just a phony. He can't be trusted.
Phony.
He's one of the shit Brits. Alex McCarthy, we're coming for you. That's real Brits, bro. Time's up.
Yeah. There's a lot of Lakers guys that I don't know, man. Might be collateral damage in this because I've been just watching this thing develop. I've watched these guys talk up these guys as the favorites, even though they had to play in to get in the playoffs. Barely beat the Warriors. I don't know, man. If AD doesn't play good, these next two games could be a curtain for these guys,
man. Is he
man.
playing tonight?
I think he is.
Oh, okay. They need him because we talked about a little bit on the main show, but man, I don't want to be a guy that doubts LeBron because I mean, look, he's proven plenty of people wrong plenty of times, but it seems very obvious that this Lakers run, he isn't quite that same guy, and without Davis, this team just ain't very good. Dennis Schroeder's no longer the point guard of the team. He's removed all Lakers references from his Instagram, so I think he got traded or he's just gonna sit out. I don't know, but it just ain't a great team with Davis down.
I knew Schroeder was clocked out when he did that interview, and he was like, "Yeah, everybody on the team is vaccinated except Bron." I was like, "Wow, just throwing a random stray at Bron out of nowhere. Where did they even come from?"
Guys, I have to read this because Bud Ryan has taken a shot at Alex McCarthy. He says, "Like I'm going to trust the basketball opinion of a Drew McIntyre stan."
Oh no! No!
Very fair.
We've trained our fans to be lunatics. This is what we've done. Our viewers, they're assassins. They're trained to go. This has been fun, folks. I've enjoyed this. It's been great.
All right. Phil's like, yeah, I can hop on and talk basketball for a second. And here he is, hour and a half later, still talking with us. Phil, go ahead and plug anything, buddy.
I don't know if I have anything to plug. I mean, hey, you can always find my stuff at Bleacher Report. I don't think I have anything else to plug. Unless I'm just drawing a blank.
Twitter. Plug your Twitter.
There you go. At PhilDL616. You can come on there and yell at my random wrestling takes like a lot of people seem to do.
I'm not going to ask Joseph to plug anything. He already dismissed me last time. We'll be back on Twitch tomorrow, Joseph. BP Dub.
2 p.m. Eastern time.
There you go.
All right. To go.
2 p.m. Twitch tomorrow. Booty Pro Wrestling. We got a pay-per-view to book tomorrow. Big show. Tremendous show. One of the best lineups we've ever put together.
Okay, good.
We'll do BP Dub, and then everybody enjoy your Thursday night. Oh, Impact stream, co-stream at 8:00, or I don't know if they're starting early tonight because of that hour-long Iron Man match that apparently everyone loved. Message Joel Pearl. Ask him if they're going early. I don't run that shit. I don't watch Impact. Y'all have a good evening. Let's see who we're gonna raid. Steven Larson are talking. They hate wrestling too, so we'll send you over to them. There you go. Oh, Pearl said they're going early. Oh, there you go. Well, all right. So whatever time. I assume in 30 minutes. Then they'll go live. Until then, listen to Steven Larson tell you how much they also don't like wrestling. Catch y'all later.
See you guys.